Nikki Chavanelle joining us, managing editor of HawgBeat.com, covering everything Razorback Athletics, part of the Rivals Network. Nikki, I'm choosing today to be thankful and grateful, which is the same thing I tried to be last week when the women's basketball team suffered their early upset loss against Wright State. You know, and maybe that's because I'm a little closer to the athletic department and don't take the tack as a fan, but I just feel like this was a memorable season. This team was so much fun to watch, and I feel like they lost to the team that's going to be the national champion anyway. So I don't think there's anything to be embarrassed about.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at all of the mixed expectations that were on the team, I mean, there were people who just didn't even know what to expect from them at all. So to get a team that goes to the Elite Eight for the first time since '95, I mean, a whole generation of folks who haven't seen Arkansas play this well, I don't think there's anything but positive to take away. And, yeah, I think a lot of Hog fans are feeling grateful. I would say the vast majority. I just think they were happy to be there, and I wish they had played a little bit more loose last night, but, you know, it's a very big stage.
Yeah, it felt like maybe a little tight at the outset, and you know, those first 4 minutes, that doesn't always cost you a game, and this team's been so good coming from behind, but, you know, that did feel like it cost them yesterday because you can't fall behind a team that is that good. Do you feel that with no SEC teams going to the Final Four, with Arkansas being the only team in the Elite Eight, you know, the Pac-12 has had their level of success. Do you think it says anything about the SEC? Do you think it was a little top-heavy this year?
I don't know. I thought the SEC this year was pretty good. There were plenty of teams in the tournament, and even though things didn't, you know, go the right way, I mean, Alabama and Arkansas both getting to that level after so many years, I think it actually says a lot about, you know, the parity between the different teams and how the landscape has changed, and you can build a team with just one off season. So I think it's, you know, in the future, I think we'll continue to see more growth from the SEC basketball scene.
Well, as far as I could see, I mean, if you just look at what's building in the future, like I don't know every situation about every other SEC team for 2021 and the 22 season, but when you look at the core that Eric Musselman has coming back, and Alabama's losing most of their best players, Arkansas, you know, is losing some of their best in Moody, we expect, and Justin Smith probably, and probably Jalen Tate. But the young core is something that I can't wait to see how Muss complements that core with you know that there's going to be some grad transfers coming in this offseason because that's what this coaching staff seems to be masterful at building college basketball teams in the contemporary way.
I mean, luckily, Arkansas's run has given them so much national attention that, I mean, Musselman should be able to have a really solid pick of the litter in the transfer portal, and there are so many guys in there. It's really hard to even keep track, but I'm sure Musselman was doing, you know, more Zooms than we even heard about with transfers while he was locked up in his hotel room. But, yeah, you're going to have to find really key playmakers. I know you said, like, the core is really good, but you're still losing, like, a lot of your leadership and firepower. And so I think maybe it's going to have to be a really good job blending the two. I'm not sure it's a core that you can fully build around just because you don't have the leadership there quite yet.
Nikki Chavanelle joining us here on Halftime. Nikki, you talked about the transfer portal. Before we move on to the football recruiting news, if you're Coach Musselman, and I know that it's really early and the term is not over and there may still be more players to get added into this transfer portal, but is there a position that you think Musselman needs to focus on first? Because I think early in the season we talked about this team, the lack of not having a true point guard on this team, or what we thought was not a true point guard, even though Jalen Tate filled that role pretty well, I thought. But is that where you think Musselman needs to start first, or is there a different position group you think that the basketball team needs to focus on in the transfer portal?
I mean, because of all that you're losing, I think every position is a priority. You need a high-volume shooter. You need a strong inside presence. They're looking at, C.J. Felder. He's 6'7", 230. He looks similar to Justin Smith, but with less experience. I don't know how they're going to do it because there's just so many options. I mean, I think Florida's had 4 players enter the transfer portal. I think they just have to, rank like they would with the, high school recruits and try to also find personalities that work. Luckily, unlike last year where they had to blend, a whole team, they already know kind of the personality of the guys that they have returning, so it shouldn't be too difficult. But I think that they can be picky in that way and make sure that they're bringing in not just, good shooters or good big men, but leaders like Justin Smith and Jalen Tate were.
Been anxious to talk to you about this as we transition over to some Razorback football recruiting news. And we mentioned this name earlier last week when we last had you on, and then the commit came through, and Arkansas got its first top 100 commit of the Pittman era, Michigan defensive back Miles Rouser. So we talked a little bit about him last week, but for those that missed it, tell us a little bit about this commit coming out of Michigan.
Yeah, Rouser, he's 6 foot, about 195. He's got size already. He's got a full year to grow. He reminds me a lot of, Jalen Catalon, obviously highly ranked and heavily recruited. Alabama was in the top 4. Don't think they were prepared to take him. I think he's one of the guys that they're like, come get to a camp, whatever, but, they still offered. And as much as, he has really good safety skills, great tackler, he's also really good in coverage. So I think that, safety is where his head coach at school saw his impact helping them the most. But at Arkansas, he could play anywhere in the secondary.
Nikki, how the heck does Arkansas get a great player from Michigan? I've never heard of this before. How did that happen?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. They have put a lot more focus in Michigan since Sam Pittman got here. There have been no signees from that state out of high school, going back as far as the Rivals database goes. But they like the talent in that state. They think there's an opportunity to convince guys that, the SEC is really where they want to play. And given his final options, I mean, he was at one point a Michigan commit, but his older brother goes there, and I think he just wanted to do something different. And given his options, he had Kentucky in there. I just think he liked what Sam Carter and Barry Odom sold to him.
Sam Carter, he's rolling, isn't he? He's done really good work recruiting, huh?
Yeah, the kids really like him, and I think the work that he's been able to do with the secondary already, and his very recent experience of playing at a high level in college football is resonating. Once he gets, he doesn't get full credit for Jalen Catalon because obviously Barry Odom is the safeties coach, but I still think that's going to be a really good resume point for him, and that'll help him continue bringing in top recruits.
Baseball gets recruits from all over the country. California, got kids from all over, really. Basketball, it seems that they cast a fairly wide net for the most part. Do you think that this could be look, I'm not saying Arkansas is going to be getting the top talent out of Michigan year after year, but they're casting a wider net geographically than I think I've seen for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to get their bread and butter from around the nearby states. But if there's a guy that they really click with the work that these guys put into creating relationships, I think it's entirely possible. I mean, Rouser didn't even visit before he committed. So it was purely, wanting to play at the highest level and really liking the coaching staff. So Yeah, I could see it.
All right, before we let you go, Nikki, I have to. We've asked about your boyfriend a couple of times here and there. The next segment, we're doing a deal. Apparently, like bald dudes got put down the other day, and SmackDown is asking about world's sexiest bald men. Are you okay with a bald guy?
Whoa!
Were you attracted to your boyfriend's hair? Is that any reason why, if he shaved it off, like we're gonna force Ty Richardson to go bald at some point? Would that be a reason for a breakup?
I mean, if he started balding, I don't think I would hold that against him. But I think generally hair is cool.
Darn. All right, then.
Well, a lot of guys can pull it off, though.
Yeah. Well, some of us have no choice.
I gravitate towards nice hair.
Nikki, we appreciate you, as always. Thanks so much for hopping on with us. We'll talk Tuesday next week.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thanks, guys.
Nikki Chavanelle from Rivals, HawgBeat.com.